deficit there. Quickly, I can also show you what is going on in Virginia. The margin, 102,000 votes for Donald Trump. The story here, though, continues to be, we talked about it earlier, those suburbs of Washington, D.C., heavily populated, very Democratic. Let me show you a couple of these and what we can see in terms of the results right now. Take a look at Fairfax. This is sort of the granddaddy of them all up there in Northern Virginia. You have a lead right now for Hillary Clinton of 56,000 votes. I can tell you 4 years ago, the margin here, I could have told you that a minute ago. She can still expect to get she can still get votes out of here, probably about 20,000 more in terms of a margin, so she can collect some.
We're gonna do
she can collect some out of Fairfax.
Try that
collect some out of Arlington. It looks like she can collect some. Yes, Prince William County. There's still about probably 15,000 she could get here, and also there is still a vote out in Richmond. So Richmond, Northern Virginia. There's still certainly a path for Hillary Clinton in Virginia to overcome that lead now of 103,000 votes for Donald Trump. But again, as we've said in all these other states, as that heavily Democratic vote comes in, there's also, well, he's pretty much filled in here, so there's also some votes from these Republican counties that are still trickling in, so that could offset what she's picking up there.
Steve Kornacki at the board, Steve Schmidt, Nicole Wallace. What do you make of it?
It's going to be a long night, and I think that you know, some of us, myself included, were harshly critical of his sort of idea about a last-minute path that would include one of those Michigan, Minnesota. But if it turns out that he sweeps these battleground states, that certainly holds the key for him to flip a Michigan or Minnesota.
And Michigan and Minnesota are not too early to call. They're both too close to call right now.
Yeah, look, there's no question that they're nervously optimistic at Trump Tower, and you have a lot of sweat on the brow at Clinton campaign headquarters right now. This was not what they were expecting.
Nice. Okay, I made that one. Okay, I really fucked that up. Good job, Braxton.
Looking at leads in these states that are pretty substantial, you know, for Trump, with a lot of vote coming in.
Howard Feynman has been talking to
what the
camp here in New York, and let us know that he has some reporting on that front. Howard?
Yeah, Brian, earlier today, and just a few hours ago, the Clinton people were saying that.
Oh, you gotta make first downs on these plays? Oh shit, oh boy.
That's obviously not happening. And you know, my
man, I whiffed this bad.
Run our international editions. We have 16 of them, and around the world, people have been looking at us in America and saying, "Is this Brexit? Is this Brexit again?" That is the British vote that surprised everybody in the establishment in the UK about leaving the EU. And you've got to say, based on what we've seen so far, that this is a gigantic shout from non-global America, non-globalist America, to use that term, of no. They're saying no. And Donald Trump, whether he wins or loses, accurately channeled that anger and that giant shout of no about the global economy, about the knowledge economy, and so forth. And Florida
Alrighty, so
and the fact that
we're going to
Virginia
give Miller's getting the chance, and then Carlo Jordan's going to back him up. I mean,
Howard Feynman here in New York.
look at their XP. I mean, that just shows it right there. Johnson. I mean, we get the carries all over the place. So.
James Carville, what is the Clinton camp worried about most right now, looking at this board?
Well, Florida is a concern. If we lose Virginia, we'll probably lose the election. I'll be close to it. I mean, I'd say right now I was expecting to be in a better mood at this point than I am right now. I'll be honest with you. Look, there's a lot left to count, and you know, not anything like that. But I fully expected that we would be better off than we are right now.
Michael Steele, the Republican states coming in the way they were supposed to come in. Texas, which actually had an hour or two of suspense tonight.
I've never understood that. So, okay, we'll play along with that.
Okay. But here we are now. It's down to the battlegrounds.
Yeah, it is. And you're looking at what's happening in Michigan. You're looking at North Carolina, Virginia, and certainly, as James said, Florida. The fact of the matter is, and a number of folks have touched on it tonight, there was an expectation that the Hispanic vote was going to outperform and do this voodoo, and they did. They did it well. But what people continue to underestimate in this election is that white vote. That vote that's not hunkered down in the cities, that is outlining those cities, that's out in the rural and the suburban areas. Trump knew they were there. He went out there, he found them. There's a reason and a methodology to the madness of the campaign in terms of that. So it's paying dividends for him at the moment.
Yeah, and one of the things I can caution you is in Broward, I'm told that it is just the early vote that's in. The same thing in,
all right.
That's what
Hey, Mom.
You just mentioned that it was just the early vote. And now I have no idea of what there's got to be a lot of votes out there somewhere. Fairfax, I don't know how much is left, so I want to be sort of cautious here, and not say this thing can get
right. I agree with what you have to know. Is also muted a little bit by the fact that you still have a lot of public vote in Florida, and the Panhandle especially, that's going to offset, eat into because of her ability to hit that 116,000 difference that is right now.
When I'm looking at it and say 15% is in Broward, then I could see her still catching up. I'm not sure of the figures.
Oh, great. Adams again. Dropped it. No. Tampa 2.
With our insiders.
Yeah, can we put up the Florida board again at this point? We're just watching these numbers trickle in. We were just talking about that. Right now, there's 93% of the vote there. You see Donald Trump with a more than 100,000 vote lead. We talked about this a little bit earlier on, not just in terms of which way Florida's going to go, but what that says about the presidency.
You really have to pay attention, Ray. They're me like crazy. Fuck.
Would love to win Florida, but she doesn't have to win Florida. Donald Trump has to. If he doesn't, he is almost precluded in terms of realistic terms from getting there. Once he's got it, though, I don't know how narrow a path we're talking about for Clinton. I mean, she doesn't need it, but if she doesn't have it, how much harder is it going to be for her to get there? That's one of the things that I think everybody's got in looking toward that Florida number. We're to 93%.
Come on.
Explain to us about what's coming.
You get it? Okay.
Didn't James Carville do with Virginia?
I thought he did.
I feel like headlines are being written off for what James Carville just said about Virginia.
He said if we lose Virginia, we'll lose
There's a lot we're seeing looking at this map tonight in Florida and other states that I don't think anybody in politics expected they'd be seeing tonight. Let me take you through Florida and what's left of the vote and what we can tell you about that. So the gap for Hillary Clinton right now is 132,000 votes in Florida. She needs to make up against this stupid thing. Okay.
Yeah, he's almost 200,000 votes up right now. Holy shit. Damn.
Talking about Broward County, big population center, big Democratic county. There is still vote out in Broward especially. Let me show you, though. This looks like the early vote that's in. We say, well, only the early vote is in. Here's the problem, though. The total vote for Democrats, the problem is that the total vote in this county in 2012 was about 750,000. So you can do the math. Yeah, there is same-day vote out, but same-day vote isn't what it used to be. Most of the vote is early vote. Now, we don't know exactly what the turnout's going to be today. They could shatter what they saw in 2012. They could squeeze even more out of it. But you see, most of the vote is in there. So Hillary Clinton clearly running at a clip like that, 69% or so, give or take, is going to make up a lot of ground. There is also, though, outstanding vote in Republican areas. I think, if I'm seeing this right, the biggest area of the state, the biggest Republican area of the state where there's still outstanding vote is right here, Marion County, and you see Donald Trump's over 60% right here. So, gains the Democrats make in that same-day vote in
What did my mother want on
will be
Facebook?
offset
Let's see.
partially by gains Donald Trump makes up here. There is still, I think I can show you this right here. Yes, Santa Rosa County, there's also outstanding vote here, it appears. And again, look, Donald Trump's getting 3/4 of the vote there. So he will offset
To hell!
some of the gains Clinton makes in Broward, some of the gains in Palm Beach, in Miami-Dade. So overall, when you're looking right now, let's see if it's changed since I started talking, you're looking at a gap of 100.
Yeah, my mother's not a Trump supporter.
Hillary Clinton. There are some big Democratic areas there. There is a question of how much the turnout was in terms of same-day voting in those counties, but the math is complicated. There are Republican areas, too.
All right, Steve Kornacki at the board. Maria Teresa Kumar, the CEO of Voto Latino, is here with us in our newsroom. Maria, the Clinton campaign has been pointing to spikes in the Latino vote for some time.
Flag?
Do you know what
What the fuck I get a flag for?
One of the things that we found is that basically 36% of the Latinos that have cast
Oh,
vote
fuck off.
in Florida are first-time voters, meaning that they didn't vote in 2012, more than likely not before. So that's a big deal for the Democratic Party. The fact that Donald Trump helped increase the base is going to be significant, and it means that the Republican Party is going to have to come to Jesus with that community. But also what's in Florida, what's also is interesting is that you have roughly about 100,000
bad. Leroy Brown.
For Marco Rubio. So one of the things I'm looking at as we look at how close this election is how how many Republican areas are still going to continue voting for Marco Rubio, but they're going to switch their ticket to Hillary Clinton on the top?
All right, Maria Teresa Kumar, thanks. Another break for us here. Out if we learn any news.
All right, we'll take it. 8-yard game.
All right, we'll hear from, among other close Clinton surrogate from the Javits Center here in New York tonight.
Election Night 2016 is sponsored by Amazon Echo.
There you go with Fuller. Okay, we got it. 6-yard gain. Coming through. Alright. I thought I picked. Oh shit, I didn't do what I wanted to do. Ooh. Alright, Pryor. That's funny. Quarterback's all over the place. 3rd and 2. Line up nose to nose. Me and my big 6'6" line against theirs. Let's see. There you go, Duke Johnson. Good first down. Easy peasy. Easy peasy chicken greasy. Okay. Oh, I threw to the wrong guy. What a lucky. No look pass to Bashard Perriman. Come on, Green. Go. Could I get it? Oh, a fucking gain with Darius Green. You beast in it, Nick. You beast in it. First down. We'll take it. It's first and goal.
We are back. There is the blue and red on the way to 270, superimposed on home ice skating rink out back here. This storyline tonight, I'll put it this way, at the top of the evening, bent over backwards to assure our viewers there was no secret answer or path to 270 that some pollsters had delivered to the news media, and we were sitting out here play acting it. No, this is the
We're
race.
as much on the edge of our seats as you are.
This is the, yes, you could say that. This is the race as you're seeing it. Steve Kornacki's over at the board, looking at a state we haven't talked about in a few minutes, Ohio.
Yeah, let's take a look at Ohio. So again, Donald Trump, if he's able to win some of those other states we're talking about, Ohio then becomes critical for him and becomes an absolute must-win state. So here's what we can see. Trump right now is leading by about 200,000 votes.
Oh, good. Oh, he dropped it too. Oh. Get out of here. Are you kidding me?
Is in there. A lot of votes still to come in. Obviously going to be a big Clinton margin there. Also, you look at, like, this is where Columbus is. This will be another big Clinton margin. Probably a little bit less than half the vote.
There we go.
So there are some definite big pockets on this map where Hillary Clinton can make up ground. But again, and this is a theme you're going to hear from me, you've probably heard from me like a broken record tonight, it's these small rural counties, and let me show you exactly what I mean. We've talked about Youngstown itself being sort of the prototypical Trump area, white, blue-collar, working class. Well, Youngstown Youngstown itself in Mahoning County, you can see, actually, this is about what Democrats usually get out of there. No surprise here, but it's the rural areas around there. Check this out. Let me go right down here and show you, compared to 2012, what we're seeing tonight. Look at this county right here. These are small counties, but check this out. Trump is leading here by 40 points. Do you know what Mitt Romney's margin in this county was 4 years ago? 12. Tonight, it is 40. Check this one out. Right down here, Jefferson County. Donald Trump's margin is 27. Mitt Romney's margin was 5 4 years ago. Right here, that's supposed to be a mark. And this one right here, Donald Trump in Belmont County by 36 tonight. Mitt Romney's margin here was 8 points. These are small counties, but multiply this by hundreds, because we're seeing it in Ohio and we're seeing it all over the country tonight.
Steve Kornacki, that's one way of displaying it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, what's happening right now, big picture, is that there's nothing that Donald Trump has won that was on the Clinton map of expectations. There's no state that everybody assumed and the Clinton campaign assumed would be theirs that has now gone to Donald Trump. What's happened is in Ohio, as Steve was just explaining, in Virginia, in Florida, in New Hampshire, in Michigan, in Minnesota, in North Carolina, and all these places that the Clinton campaign is planning to win or hoping to win or trying really hard to win, it's too close to call.
The reds are redder. The Republicans voting in this election are motivated.
Yes, that's exactly right. You're getting places, you're not getting places to flip from Romney, from Obama to Trump. But the places that went for Romney are going for Trump by even larger margins in some places, as Steve was just explaining.
We've had a bit of a change of personnel. Casey Hunt is here with us. Steve Schmidt is here with us. If you follow hockey, it's just the next line. And Casey, what you've been off reporting. What can you report about what both parties are witnessing here?
There's been a pretty dramatic shift in the conversation that's going on with the people that I have been talking to all night. At 7 o'clock, both Democrats and Republicans that I was talking to were saying, we're confident Hillary Clinton's going to win this election. We think the Democrats are going to win the Senate with either 50 or 51 seats. And that seemed to be an across-the-board opinion, both establishment Republicans and Democrats. I would say that has changed pretty dramatically in the last 2 hours. Obviously, there's still a lot of information out. We could go county by county and explain why that is. But there are a lot of Democrats
Bossa eat Brady. Bossa eat Brady. Brady, no, I like Bossa.
Rates for Trump, but they're starting to wonder, what does that mean for Pennsylvania? What does that mean for Michigan? And I also have sources who are now saying, hey, Democrats have much less chance taking the Senate back right now. There was a conversation, actually, I just got off the phone with Senator Joe Manchin, because I've been picking up a lot of intense speculation that in the event there was a 50-50 Senate, he might be somebody who would switch parties, potentially become an independent. Was he telling people in West Virginia he was going to become an independent? I have to tell you, I couldn't get a firm commitment from him that he was definitely going to be a Democrat for the next 2 years. He says, no, I'm not going to say that. But on the other hand, he wanted to quash some of this speculation and say, hey, I still really believe in Hillary Clinton. That was his main message. He says, she went back to West Virginia. She remember that kind of mistake she made talking about coal miners and putting them out of work. She went back to correct that. So a lot of interesting chatter behind the scenes right now. Wow. Well, Joe Manchin is one of those. It's interesting, actually. Joe Manchin and Claire McCaskill, we think of as very different cats. Ideologically, the two of them are not that far from one another. When Claire McCaskill runs in Missouri, she brags about the fact that she considers herself to be and is considered by some.
Oh my God!
The fulcrum on which the Senate turns in terms of her spot on the ideological number line. Joe Manchin looks like a Republican in some of the ways that he votes, but his loyalty to Hillary Clinton in this race has been, I think, an important thing for the Democratic Party in terms of its sense of itself.
Let's hear what the Clinton camp is telling Kristen Welker over at the Javits Center at Clinton headquarters tonight. Kristen?
Well, Brian, there's obviously a lot of focus and concern about the fact that Florida is so close. Obviously, those early returns that we saw very early in the evening suggested that the heavily Democratic areas were turning out in big numbers, but now those heavily Republican areas answering. I've been talking to top Clinton campaign officials, though, who say, look, we're not panicking. We have a number of paths to 270, and that's what Secretary Clinton's surrogates are saying as well. They say, look, we never thought that we needed to win Florida, but it's a game over state. But Brian, I have to tell you, if she doesn't win Florida, obviously it makes her path tougher. So you're looking at states like Virginia, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Michigan as must win. So that takes me to Michigan. I have been surveying all of the surrogates here, campaign officials who say they are going to hold court in Michigan. They go back to the ground game. The fact that she has 35 offices set up there, they've been set up there for months now, and they've been pounding the pavement for days. So they think they're going to hold court in Michigan, but obviously the stress level has gone up a notch here as they've seen how close Florida is. Brian?
There's a palpable, I know someone is speaking, but in shots of the crowd earlier tonight as people were arriving and very excited, thinking they were going to be present at what was very clearly and obviously a victory rally. Now we're watching what appears to be videotape of Chuck Schumer talking.
That is correct, Brian, and I have to tell you, at the beginning of this night, there were moments in which this crowd broke out into cheering. Those moments are getting fewer and far between, and I think you pick up on the optics and the mood in the room, which certainly become a lot more tense as they have seen these screens light up with a lot of red. But again, Secretary Clinton's top surrogates say they're still confident that she has a path to 270, that she still has a number of paths to 270, but Florida making everyone a little bit more jittery than they had anticipated at this hour, Brian.
9:28 Eastern Time, we don't have answers.
No, and we've got all of, I mean, look at, that's actually the exact right banner to put up there. Too close to call. Florida, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Georgia, Michigan, and Minnesota. All too close to call. And granted, the night is young. A lot is going to happen. A lot of those states are going to get resolved. But in Florida, we got 4% of the vote in, and it's still too close to call. North Carolina, 3/4 of the vote is in. More than 3/4 of the vote is in, and these are all still close. So, I mean, obviously, this is going to be down to the wire in a lot of these.
It's an uneven situation. We would have expected Georgia, if this was going to be a good night for Trump, to have gotten Georgia a long time ago tonight. So that's the question there. So he's not strong at board, I don't think. Pennsylvania is the firewall.
Right.
I think it's, but who could have predicted this anyway? I'm not going to say I know it's going to happen. I don't know, this exurb vote we keep hearing about. Well, we've been polling professionally for about a century, and we've been polling presidential elections that long and trying to get it right, and if we're, well, we'll see.
The one question about tonight was always, was everybody wrong? Were all the polls wrong? Were they failing to account for this X factor of these voters who were suddenly so motivated, angry, who many of them have been Democrats for decades? It's possible we're not seeing that play out.
Steve Schmidt, people I know discuss doing segments in our business on these new words that entered our lexicon recently, like Brexit and FARC. And you'd hear these words at a Trump event, and that was the context.
Look, this is the second of 4 really consequential global elections with big implications. The next will be the French presidential, the German chancellor's race. This phenomenon is playing out across the whole of the Western democracies, fueled by a collapse of trust in institutions. When we look at these results early on tonight, politics is an expectations game. And no one had the expectation that we would be sitting here looking at the margins, Donald Trump vastly overperforming expectations of where this would be at this hour tonight. This is much closer than Democrats were saying. And you have to be worried tonight if you're a Democrat who was saying earlier that Donald Trump is going to lose Florida by 5 points. You're obviously seeing this surge of rural vote in the state. And that vote, if it surges in Ohio, if it surges in Pennsylvania, if it surges in Michigan, is going to become a very, very long night for the Clinton campaign.
It's also an interesting diagnostic moment for the professional nature of politics. I mean, Hillary Clinton has outspent Donald Trump in terms of ads. She has outorganized him in terms of field offices. Her ground game is not only vastly bigger, it's vastly more intense. It's better integrated with the Democratic Party. Trump has done all of these things either not at all or in a new way or handing it off to the Republican Party in a way that a lot of people thought, well, when rubber meets the road, he just won't be able to execute. And he may, I mean, also made it through the Republican primary process, spending 5 cents on ads and beating 17 other candidates. So, I mean, he may be showing that again tonight.
They're tied. Trips to Florida over the course of this campaign, 25. We're going to take a break. The same warnings if something happens, if one of these states and we are able to make a call, we'll come flying out of the break. Otherwise, we'll be back right after this.
That going on right now. 20 money go. White guy, 45, 26. Might be the only defensive player on there is 26. Damn it! Hooper! Here we go, here we go. Oh no! I whiffed that like an idiot. We're on no huddle.
In these situations, I remember playing with a quarterback once where he actually ran out onto the field first ahead of everyone else just to say, guys,
Ooh.
9:36 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's take a look at where we are. The following states we have as too close to call, starting with Florida, a razor's edge race there. Pennsylvania.
What?
Too close to call. 20 electoral votes. Ohio. Too close to call. Georgia. Too close to call. Michigan. Too close to call. North Carolina. Too close to call. Virginia. Too close to call. Minnesota. Too close to call. New Hampshire. Too close to call. To the electoral race, the race to 270, 137 to 104, advantage Trump. Steve Kornacki is at the board with some new numbers in Virginia and Florida, they tell me.
Yeah, let's take a look at Virginia. And as you were speaking there, Brian, we actually got an update on the statewide vote. We see Clinton's been playing from behind. The question here has largely been about Northern Virginia, how much turnout, how much support she can get. Can she stem this gap? So it's now down to 25,000. Hillary Clinton's gap in Virginia, as I say this sentence, is 25,000 votes. Now, that just tightened significantly in the last few seconds, so I'm sort of finding this out with you. It looks like we just got more vote in Fairfax County again. This is sort of the mother lode of them in Northern Virginia. You see a lead there for Hillary Clinton now, about 90,000 votes. I believe, I'd have to go back and check, but I believe that there is still vote outstanding. Not much. This is a county where President Obama was reelected 4 years ago by a margin of 109,000 votes. Hillary Clinton's getting the same sort of level of support, so she can probably squeeze, I don't know, rough estimate here, another 10, 20,000 out of Fairfax County. You look at Prince William County, Hillary Clinton leading here by about 4,000. Looks like some more vote just came in here. This one of all the Northern Virginia counties, I think, has the most still to come in. She could probably squeeze out, again, roughly here, between, say, 10 and 20,000 there. And also, it looks like in Richmond, the city of Richmond, there's still maybe about 40% to come in there. Hillary Clinton could squeeze out. So the votes appear to be there, at least in theory, for Hillary Clinton to overcome a margin. Now you see it's down to 21,000. The votes appear to be there in Northern Virginia and Richmond. The wild card in all this, I keep saying, I can't really point to one red county like in one of these Democratic counties where you're going to see a big Trump vote. There's scattered votes still coming in the red parts of Virginia, but the opportunity there for Hillary Clinton to make up the number in Virginia certainly exists. But again, we weren't even supposed to be talking about Virginia this way at this hour. Let's take a look right now in Florida. So the margin now, look at this, it's sitting there at about 138,000 votes right now. That's been pretty stubborn from a Democrat standpoint. They've got a lot still to make up. You can see Broward, again, I told you, we're still sort of in the dark here about how much is left. The turnout, the total turnout here in 2012 was 750. You add that together, and you're pretty much at 750,000 right now. So I'm not sure how much the Democrats can squeeze out of Broward, out of Palm Beach, out of Miami-Dade. You're getting close to your 2012 levels. Again, still looks like this might be in now. Still looks like, I think, some Republican vote to come in Santa Rosa here, sort of in the peninsula. That's a lot of ground for Hillary Clinton to make up here with what we're looking at.
Steve Kornacki at the board with Virginia and Florida. We have a photograph tweeted out on the account of Ivanka Trump. This is the experience of watching the returns at Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan tonight before they go over to the New York Hilton. Nobody goes nowhere until we figure out just what it is we're marking this evening. But you see the assorted Trumps and Pences. And pensive, I guess, would describe.
I desperately want to know what Mike Pence is looking at. Because I know what everybody else is looking at, but Mike Pence sees something else.
It is evocative of the Situation Room the night they got Bin Laden, only for an entirely different subject matter, but the concentration and on people's faces.
I see a winner in that group. I see Mike Pence. He won both the Senate race and the presidential electoral votes in his state of Indiana, and this is going to be a competitive race for president. He jumped on this horse when it didn't look too good. And this is going to be a competitive race for president. He's going to look like a smart Paul.
Let's go to Chris Hayes right now, who's at our breaking news desk, keeping an eye basically on the globe tonight in terms of what else is going on. Chris?
Rachel, we've seen throughout the campaign when Trump's chances have increased, they tend to send some panic through markets. And right now, as this night has developed in a highly uncertain fashion, global markets are roiling quite a bit. We have Raman Sana, I believe, on the line from CNBC, with Dow futures trading down about 500 points. Ron, can you give me the roundup of how global markets are moving as the entire world watches these returns come in?
Well, Chris, this is going to be the fear of Brexit Part 2, as was discussed earlier in the program. A surprising result from tonight's vote would unwind the gains that we saw on Wall Street just the last 2 days. The Dow gained almost 400 points, rebounding after a 9-day loss, which was the longest loss the market has suffered since 1980. And this rebound on Monday and Tuesday came after Jim Comey had backed away from the email investigation. The market effectively today and yesterday pricing in a Hillary Clinton victory. A big donor that I talked to that works with Hillary Clinton thought this morning that she was going to win in a landslide. There's some confusion now, obviously, as to whether or not those internal polls that the Clinton organization had were even remotely accurate, or any polls for that matter. So you get this rebound effect. World markets will sell off. The post-Brexit sell-off in London, for instance, was about a 5 to 7% 2-day affair. We could expect the dollar to go down. The Mexican peso will fall in value. The Mexican stock market will fall in value, since Donald Trump has targeted that country with respect to both the wall and altering trade treaties between the two countries. We have to watch China, since he's spoken negatively about our relations with them. So there will be worldwide repercussions in financial markets, and expect, I would imagine, if Trump were declared the winner tonight, that you could see about a 3 to 5% pullback in the next day or two.
All right, Ron and Sana from CNBC. We should note the Mexican peso, which has been kind of a key indicator of some of the volatility. It's where money has flowed in and out of as global financial markets try to assess the future. That is down around 8.5% right now. So there is a lot of hot and panicky money in global markets sloshing around, watching this with bated breath. Rachel.
Chris Hayes, thank you. Down. That has been an unusual marker for the volatility sense and the sense of Donald Trump's prospects in this race. Exclamation point on it tonight.
Another break for us. We're back with our live coverage right after this.
I'm whipping on tackles. That's not good.
p.m. No one has the advantage of information tonight. No one has an inside read, a private poll. We're all working out of the same books, in some cases off the same rules, and in some cases people are learning to their detriment old sets of rules. There's a word for what's happening. It's called a barn burner. Steve Kornacki, I see him over at the board tinkering. I just saw Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. What were you doing in Mecklenburg County?
They're updating the votes every 5 or 6 seconds. I wanted to make sure, but let's take you through the math in Carolina quick. Look, what she's down right now is about 87,000 votes in North Carolina right now. Where could Hillary Clinton make this up if she's going to win the state? There's 3 places you're going to look. One of them, you just gave it away there, Mecklenburg. Now look, in 2012, the total number of votes cast out in Mecklenburg County was 445,000. You add these together, you're a little more than 100,000 short of that. So she could gain, if this pattern holds, about 30,000 votes or so out of Mecklenburg County. Where else does she look? The bad news for Hillary Clinton, if you look in Wake County, the sort of big votes that are up there, looks like the vote is in. The good news for her, if you go next door, Durham County, 145,000 votes were cast here 4 years ago. You can see a lot of votes still to come in and a huge Clinton margin here. So there's an opportunity for her to pick up votes there. And also one more place you would look. Let me make sure I get it. It's the dot. Let me make sure I get it. This is where Winston-Salem is. And again, it looks like there's probably about 100,000 votes outstanding here. Those 3 pockets, when you're looking at the total statewide gap she's facing, which sits right now at about 90,000 votes. Those 3 pockets are enough. The problem, again, there's also red area to fill in that'll lead into whatever Hillary Clinton gains there.
All right. Thank you. Again, Virginia right now, we got about 80% of the vote in. It's almost the same in North Carolina, about 79% of the vote in. In Florida, that's where we've got 95% of the vote in, but all of those races still considered to be too close to call. Interesting, Georgia was an early closing tonight, but in Georgia, less than half of the vote is in. 45% of that vote is in. In New Hampshire, even less. In New Hampshire, we've got less than a third of the vote in. In Pennsylvania, we've got barely over a quarter of the vote in. So a number of these states, the too close to call is the headline here, but watching the proportion of that vote come in, it's really important.
In Pennsylvania, I just talked to Governor Rendell, and I've been following the Philadelphia political machine here. Bob Brady, the boss of the machine up there, told me he could bring in a 450,000 plurality out of the city. According to Rendell, just now he's beating that. He's getting 450, and a 300,000 from the 4 suburban areas. It looks like in a sweep Pennsylvania. So the firewall is holding for Clinton to the old politics of machine politics and the suburban advantage she has now, among women especially. I think whatever else happens south of Pennsylvania is probably going to be the firewall that holds.
Right now, Pennsylvania, even though there's only a quarter of the voting, you're saying that in key areas they're hitting their targets.
Well, it's very professional in Philadelphia. They know every single voting division, every committeeman, every committee woman is right on top of it. This vote is known.
They each have a drone assigned to.
They have 100 hours. Yeah, that's better than the drone.
Pennsylvania aside, Donald Trump can still only win this race if he wins Florida, which is why source close to the inside the Trump war room says Trump is visiting his own war room, and their emotions are hinged on the precinct by precinct results that they are getting in from Florida. And it has been a dramatic shift since 7 o'clock there, where they were very pessimistic, to now when they are much less so. I don't want to be the first person to bring this up, but I want to be the first person to bring this up. In states like Florida, and in a number of the other states right now that are too close to call, an automatic recount is triggered if the results are less than 0.5%. Florida, it's important to know that, because in Florida, if you don't get within 0.5%, you can't even offer to pay to have another recount to which you would not otherwise be legally entitled. So the percentage really matters, even after the decimal point. And Obama was just outside that. That's in 2000.
That automatically triggers mandatory Xanax and Ativan prescriptions across the country.
I'm inlining it.
Just put it in the water.
Okay. Eugene's got a good idea. We'll look into that.
John Birch Society on line 3 for
Coming up on 10 p.m. calls. Maybe some answers, maybe not. A last break. We'll be right back.
Nice. That's a beautiful throw. Braxton Miller might have been the right choice for my quarterback. I mean, one bad throw by me, but we'll see. got the lead. Let's start doing our running game. Ooh, 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 ooh. Wow. Stiff to stuff. Nice, Ladarius Green. Oh, 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 oh.
Here's a change. We're back from the break. 4 split electoral votes. Maine has moved from too early to too close. 19% of the vote in. A crazier and crazier state politically. Like so many states, there's a couple contained in one. Steve Kornacki lurking around the board again, and now it's Virginia.
So, new development to tell you about in Virginia just in the last minutes. Hillary Clinton has now taken the lead. You can see a 6,000 vote lead roughly for Hillary Clinton in Virginia. Still vote coming in. If you're a Clinton fan in Virginia, 2 pieces of good news. One is that you now have the lead. 2 is that we keep talking about Northern Virginia. All that vote still not in. Fairfax County, the turnout here back in 2012 was 525,000, so there's still room for Hillary Clinton to gain votes there. Also, Richmond, the city of Richmond, turnout there about 75%, I should say, about 75% of the vote is in. So those are 2 Democratic vote-rich areas where there are still returns to come in. So Hillary Clinton's chances of hanging on to that lead, now you can see it's climbing to 6,000. You might feel good about that. The bad news, obviously, if you're a Clinton fan, is look how late it is in the evening, and we're talking about how Northern Virginia may bail you out in Virginia. This was a state with Tim Kaine on the ticket with the population changes. We didn't think it would take this late in the night to be calling.
Former mayor of Richmond, Virginia. Steve, I was going to ask about Loudoun County. There was a late Trump event up in Leesburg, and they were wondering, too little, too late.
Yeah, this is the story of Donald Trump's performance here, I think, in Virginia tonight. It's not really in this Northern Virginia area. You see Hillary Clinton, this is Loudoun right now, about a 22,000 vote lead. Pretty much on course with what Barack Obama got 4 years ago. I mean, the story for Donald Trump, it's these rural areas. It's these, small red counties that just, big turnout, giant Trump supporting them. And we can show you some down here. Look at this, 82% tiny rural county. But that's what you're looking at powering this thing.
Yeah, I don't want this word exurbs to become a thing. This is out in the country.
Yeah.
And we have an expression for this, and this is the vote out in the country.
Southwestern Virginia is its own thing.
Where we've seen all the Trump signs for weeks and weeks and weeks and all summer long. So,
Nicole Wallace, you're the captain of the canary.
No, listen, I feel like I was wrong. I mean, this is really a tight race, and the Clinton campaign projected a lot more confidence than has been reflected in the way the evening has gone down so far. And no matter what happens, Trump had a lot more support in a lot more states among a lot more people than the polls detected. this morning.
I am told Lawrence O'Donnell has more from the insiders. Lawrence?
We're here with Steve Schmidt and James Carville. James, I've seen you worried from time to time. I've never seen you more worried about anything than you were worried about Virginia. How are you feeling now?
Well, I feel much better. The party chair that I've been in contact with, if you're watching with the government, it's moving up because we lost Virginia, we probably were going to lose. So I feel much better about Virginia. But, you know, what Chris said about Pennsylvania is encouraging. I think all eyes going to be on North Carolina now.
Steve, North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. And she's behind in North Carolina. Look, my prediction was 320 to 340 electoral votes for her. I'm clearly wrong on that because it's going to be a very long night. It's going to be close.
Wow, he's up by, wow, he's up a lot in North Carolina. Damn.
I don't think these things happen in isolation. So as we move into Ohio, we move into Michigan, we're going to see this phenomenon play out. But the presidency is up for grabs.
That's what you keep saying in our ongoing conversation here that the audience hasn't been a part of, is that this doesn't happen in isolation.
Right.
Talk about Michigan.
Well, I mean, if you have all this turnout in North Florida, if you have all this turnout in rural Virginia, if you have all this turnout, it's going to bleed over into Michigan. I mean, it's very hard for me to see a scenario. I hope I'm wrong. I desperately want to be wrong. I'm not in the business of being right here tonight, but it worries me about Michigan. You know, we're getting to the point here. Several passed to 270, but we're getting to the point where some of them are getting cut off. I was, you know,
come on.
Florida, obviously, but you know, I mean, still a very good chance that she'll be the next president. But you know, I would say the Democrats watching this don't do that yet.
Steve, a chance that she'll be the next president?
Yeah, for sure there's a chance she'll be the next president, but it's a lot closer than anybody expected, certainly in all one line of work.
Brian, we're going back to you for poll closings.
That quote from Steve Schmidt will find a life of its own tonight. The presidency is up for grabs. We just heard it there on live television. Both Mr. Carville and Mr. Schmidt exercising a whole lot of caution. The American people have a funny way of making sure they get heard, and they are being heard tonight. 10 o'clock hour is 5 seconds away.
Oh, damn you.
There they are. Here are the closings. This hour, it is 10 p.m. in the state of Iowa. Our call for right now is too close to call.
Everything's too close to call. Y'all gonna make it till midnight, ain't y'all? Too close to call.
In the state of Utah, and remember, favorite son in the race, three-way, too early to call. Clinton, Trump, McMullen. In the state of Montana, the Big Sky State goes to Donald Trump. So that red band, that red wall continues its trek west with the time zones. Here's the electoral
140 to 104.
140, 104. Here is the electoral. Here are the too close to call states. Florida of the battlegrounds, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Georgia, Michigan, all of these too close to call. North Carolina, 81% in. Virginia, we talked a lot about Virginia this last hour. Minnesota, 12% of the raw vote in. New Hampshire.
Good one, good one.
Too early to call. Here we go, Arizona. 11 electoral votes. Missouri, Trump in the lead. Too early to call. Wisconsin. Colorado. And New Mexico. Let's go down to the ice and bring up the map. Blue and red on Democracy Plaza. Here's your country so far. The states we've been able to call as the time zones head from east to west. You can see the big states we are waiting for.
Utah is such an interesting case study. Not even a case study. Utah is its own case, its own standalone politics and dynamics this year. If Evan McMullen is able to win the state of Utah tonight. And our call right now is that Utah's too early to call, and it is a three-way race between Trump, Clinton, and McMillan. If he wins Utah, that would be the first time a third-party candidate or an independent candidate gets electoral votes since George Wallace, right? 1968. I mean, if he can actually win that state, there's obviously Evan McMillan is not going to win the presidency, but if he wins that state in Utah, that'll be its own kind of history. But it is striking to see both Iowa and Nevada at this point as too close to call.
It could also throw the race into chaos if we come down to a place where neither of them can get to 270. If he wins, his win in Utah could be what blocks either one of them from getting to 270.
With those 6 electoral votes, though, there's also 2 potentially faithless electors out of the state of Washington, which is expected to go for Clinton, but 2 Bernie-supporting electors in Washington have suggested that.
I love the phrase.
Faithless electors.
Steve Kornacki's at the board once again, and this time it's Michigan.
Starting to get returns from Michigan. Obviously, this is a state very late in the campaign. The Trump campaign said, we're going to put this on the map. The Clinton campaign started playing defense. What can we tell you? Pretty early here in the returns. Couple things to point out. First of all, we talk about this college, non-college white gap. I said there's 2 counties in Michigan that tell this story writ large for the entire country. Let me show you what's happening in both of them right now. First of all, this is Oakland County. This is the sort of quintessential college-educated white voter county. It is a big suburb. It is affluent, economically upscale. Most of the vote, maybe even all the vote, is now in Hillary Clinton. You see, she's winning, and she's winning it by 8 points. This is basically the same margin Barack Obama got out of Oakland County.
I'm going to interrupt you. Is to Hillary Clinton. Remember the hubbub when Donald Trump showed up in New Mexico a few days before the election? Everyone said, what do they know? What do they know? Both parties, what do they know? Here's the electoral map, 140, 109, with New Mexico now. That will give them a patch of blue to the west of Texas. So there's your map. Mr. Kornacki, please continue. Apologies.
No problem. I understand. So we're talking about Oakland County. This is the heart of the college-educated white voter. This is the big college-educated white voter county in Michigan. And you see, mostly in right now, Hillary Clinton's won it. Used to be a Republican county. Now Clinton wins by 8 points. But we said keep an eye right next door tonight on another giant county outside Detroit. That is Macomb County. Macomb County is where that term you hear in politics, Reagan Democrat, comes from. This place went for Reagan in the 80s. It swung back to the Democrats. Barack Obama won it. These are blue-collar white voters. Check out what's happening. It's early in Macomb County. Barack Obama won this county 4 years ago. Barack Obama won this county 8 years ago. Democrats said all those stories about us struggling in Macomb County, they're a thing of the past. Well, check this out. Donald Trump, it's early here. He's leading by 20. This matches what polling showed, though, in the run-up to this election might happen in Macomb County. This is a county that's going to churn out at least 400,000 votes tonight. Donald Trump, if this holds, this is a major shift within the state of Michigan. This is a big reason why his campaign decided to target this state. Now, if you're a Democrat, you still have some counties that are yet to come in. We can take a look at Wayne. This is where Detroit is. It's not just Detroit. You'll end up seeing about 800,000 votes come out of here. This will end up probably going Clinton's way in a big way. Also, right next door, this is where the University of Michigan is. College town, very liberal. A lot of votes still to come there. One quick thing we can point out, too. Where did Hillary Clinton go when she went into Michigan? She went right outside Grand Rapids. She delivered a speech that was all about her relationships, friendships, willingness to work with Republicans. She was trying to make inroads in Republican Michigan. This county 4 years ago, Mitt Romney got 68%. Clinton spoke there yesterday. You see, it may have made a tiny impact, but 63% for Trump there right now.
Steve Kornacki, can I just ask you one quick question, Steve?
Hang on, I got a projection. NBC News is projecting that when all the votes are counted, Donald Trump will be the winner in Missouri. 10 electoral votes. Another piece in the Midwest and another patch of red. The race to 270 looks like this. 150.
Oh, updated.
Let's look at Missouri on the map.
109.
Can I ask you one impressionistic question in terms of what you've been watching tonight? No, I can't.
Oh. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was hiding behind a pillar.
If you repeat the question, I'm sorry.
Here's my question. As you have been watching these returns come in, as you have been tracking these county by county results, as we've been looking at these dozen states now that are too close to call roughly, are you seeing anything where the polling seems like it was flat wrong, where the polling seems like it was radically off in terms of what we're seeing tonight on election night?
Yeah, I don't know radically. I mean, when you think about it, Florida, it looked like Clinton was leading steadily in the polls by 2-3 points. And probably if you averaged them together, it looked like she had a slight advantage there. We knew Florida 4 years ago was the closest state on the map. It was decided by less than a point. So when you're looking at how close it is right now, it's not a radical difference. It's not like there's a miss there by 10 points. But I think the accumulation of all those polls in Florida, for that matter, North Carolina, you started adding them up, and it just looked like Hillary Clinton had a small but steady lead in those states. So those are closer. I think Virginia, the fact that Virginia is as close as it is, I think that ends up being a surprise. There were a few polls late there that showed that thing might be closing, but I mean, I think there was an expectation, a pretty broad expectation among politics people 2 weeks ago that Virginia could even be a double-digit win. There was that idea that it was Tim Kaine's home state and that demographically, those college-educated white suburbanites in the northern Virginia suburbs, they were just coming to dominate even a little bit in the suburbs around Richmond. But again, there is that equally strong message that's being delivered tonight by white voters in sort of rural areas, exurbs. They are coming out in big numbers. You're taking, and you've been talking about this, they're taking counties we knew were red. They're making them redder tonight.
Steve Kornacki, thank you very much. Super helpful in terms of that context.
Chris Matthews.
When you look at Michigan historically, it shouldn't be such a shock that it might go for Trump because there is a history of very conservative white voting in Macomb County. Oh, yeah. George Wallace won the 1972 Democratic, Gene won that primary out there, Democrats, which includes a lot of African-American voters. So even with that...
I fucked that up.
It is a conservative area. I think we make a mistake picking the South, all south of here. A lot of it's mixed around, and I think that contiguous map we're looking at is, however, very powerful. I think we are increasingly a bicoastal, a country that sees itself as a bicoastal progressive part of the world, and
I dropped the ball.
A very traditional center of the country, and conservative. And white, if you will, and especially the prairie states. Look at them up there, the plain states, the Dakotas, all those states, they just go Republican. A lot of this map, in all fairness, could have been filled in a couple of months ago. The interesting thing is the states that we're following tonight are the ones we've been wondering about for months.
Absolutely.
So we're pretty much where we were months ago in terms of knowing how this is going into January. What's interesting is it's very cloying, it's very teasing. It's not telling us the answer.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, all we're getting is what we knew when we went in. Now, the interesting race, of course, are the Senate races where you saw, as you pointed out before you got on the A, tonight, the Indiana race was really a blowout for the
Todd Young beating
a great name, by the way, for newcomer. Todd Young, running against a well-known Evan Bayh, who was a long-time popular figure in that state. Elected, his father was a senator, he was governor, he was a senator. He could have stayed there forever had he stayed there.
Exactly, and they just decided he was past the sell-by date, right? He just wasn't.
You don't go away and come back home.
Exactly.
Say, I've been away, and I think that's a fact. I think we're interesting, but also tonight, we don't know who's going to run the Senate. As a friend of mine pointed out today, we have 3 branches of government at stake tonight. Later tonight, we'll know that. The presidency, the United States Senate, and the Supreme Court. All of them lie before the American people's tabulations tonight between now and hopefully when 2 in the morning when we sort of begin to think it's time to...
Good hit, TJ. Great. Green making it Dean.
I hope there's clarity. I hope there is a concession speech by the loser. I hope the American people go to bed and say, at least we have an electoral system that works, that's clean, it's trustable, it's not rigged. And in the end, we had an exciting race, which, as surprising and as disturbing as it was, had a conclusion.
I think the idea that Michigan is not in reach for Republicans is one that people forget when you come down to the final stretch. Michigan is always in the game plan on a traditional campaign, and George W. Bush spent a lot of time campaigning in the
That's a good reminder.
Michigan is always available to you in the beginning, and then depending on the contours of the race, depending on how you're doing in the battlegrounds, you simply have to make choices. It's like Pennsylvania and New Jersey for Republicans. You always put it on your wish list because of the nature of the people who live there. They do have a lot of traditional values in common with traditional Republican candidates. So this again is exactly what Donald Trump should have been doing if he'd had a traditional campaign all along. If he had a traditional campaign all along, he would have been where Ken Melman, who was George W. Bush campaign chairman, had a metric for touching these states and these kind of voters every 10 or 12 days. You know, so if he wins, he will have done it despite.
How would you put Michigan and Wisconsin on that in terms of, I mean, Wisconsin?
I literally was on a bus tour through both. I mean, I ate custard, as they call it.
Another thing, a living memory of how great it was. In Pennsylvania, the steel cities, in western Pennsylvania, like Kingsport, places like that where the cities boomed, and every guy coming out of World War II had a job. Coming out of World War II, white guys, mainly, but a lot of jobs out there. In Detroit, Motor City.
A city of 2 million people, built for 2 million people.
It's a boom town. We made cars for the world. We made steel for the world in Pennsylvania. We were the center of the universe in terms of manufacturing. These people all remember that, and they want it back.
And Trump talked about it.
Trump said, "I'll bring that Nirvana back to you."
Exactly. That's what he said. That's what he promised. How he could possibly deliver that, no one knows. But that was the promise. I do wonder, though, whether a more conventional Donald Trump running a more conventional campaign would have done as well as this Donald Trump running this campaign.
We'll never
we'll never know.
What's your answer?
I think not. Actually, I think he would have lost in the primary. He would have lost to Donald Trump. Right? I mean, there was he hit a nerve at the right moment with this sort of unconventional is not the word for it. At times crazy approach to campaigning.
He could have reined it in after becoming the nominee, but I know we didn't, right?
Yeah.
Fine-tuning Donald Trump. We have two pieces of business. We have a Senate call in North Carolina. Burr is our projected victor in the Senate race in North Carolina.
This is a tough
Actually thought this would go later tonight. Richard Burr, the projected winner. And over to Steve Kornacki for some new math out of Florida.
Let's take a look at Florida. We've been saying, what's the gap Hillary Clinton has to overcome as these final votes come in? Well, it remains steady. Look where we stand right now. Hillary Clinton, about 136,000 votes. That's the window we've been in for a long time now. And frankly, she's running out of places on this map to find 136,000 votes. The big hope for Democrats has been the Gold Coast, the big three Democratic counties down here in the southeastern part of the state. I'll show you, though, there does not seem to be much vote left out. Let me start. That biggie, about 150,000 cast in Brown County 4 years ago. As a high turnout election, 755. You see, they've blown past that number here. Doesn't mean they're all in. There are some left. There are not a lot left, I don't think. Also, Palm Beach County, 600,000 votes were cast here. You can see again, they've blown past that. Miami-Dade County, it was 875. You can see they are well past that. There is big Democratic turnout in these places, and Hillary Clinton's getting the margins Barack Obama did, maybe even a little more. But there is enormous turnout in Republican areas of this state as well. There also might be a little vote left up here, Volusia County, think Daytona Beach. This was dead even 4 years ago. Mitt Romney won this thing by a hair. Donald Trump has turned this into a double-digit win, and also the turnout is much higher. Let me show you this. Overall, statewide turnout in Florida, if you add these numbers together, you're over 9 million. You're north of 9 million. You're probably sitting at about 9.2, 9.3 million if you add them all together. Keep that in mind as I show you what the results were 4 years ago. We thought this was high turnout. Look at this. You were sitting back when you add all the third-party candidates together, about 8.5 million in Florida 4 years ago. So that is considerably higher turnout. Democratic organization, Democratic turnout, those big counties, a big story tonight. Republican turnout is too.
Maria Teresa Kumar is with us here in the studio, CEO of Voto Latino. Maria Teresa, I wanted to get your take on the Florida numbers Steve just walked us through.
Well, one of the things that I would be looking at right now is how many of those Republicans basically split their ticket. We know that roughly about 100,000 of them split their ticket for Hillary Clinton, but then went down ballot for Marco Rubio, securing his win. So of those individuals that are left over, I'm curious to see how many people, and I would look specifically, me speaking about Republican women that decided to vote for Hillary, but then went down ballot.
All right, Maria Teresa Kumar, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will update all of the pending races, including the one you see there. North Carolina with 83% of the vote in, too close to call, followed by Michigan, and the list we have almost committed to memory by now.
that hurt. Robert Nikich. Oh, nice pass. That's wow. No safety out. Okay. I'm going 300 yards pass, which is not better than this game. This game's more like a, well, as I say, it's a video game.
We are back. We have a major call coming out of the vote. We'll try to get it up there, and it is Ohio. Donald Trump, the projected winner in the state of Ohio.
Oh, shit.
18 electoral votes. A hugely important piece of real estate where that comparison is concerned.
Ohio.
168, 109 in the race to 270. Here's where it looks like, this is where it looks like as a color filling in the red alongside Indiana to the west of Pennsylvania, down on through West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and so on.
Ohio and Iowa had been the two traditional swing states that the Clinton campaign felt like were, or the Trump campaign felt like were most within their grasp. Iowa and Ohio consistently have been polling in ways that have been favorable to Donald Trump. Obviously, Ohio is the archetypal battleground. Everybody's like it was leaning toward. Still, that's got to shake the. It's even the most races do. Just one thing about North Carolina, we are watching so intently right now. Again, North Carolina is one of these states that is too close to call, and it has been so for a very long time. Even right now, with 83% of the vote in, it is still too close to call Trump in the lead. But we were talking a little bit earlier on about the other two big ticket races in North Carolina. One of them, this Senate race, Richard Burr, incumbent Republican senator, trying to hold on to his seat against Deborah Ross, who ran a good campaign against him. Burr is now the projected winner of that seat. He will hold on to that seat. The other big ticket item in North Carolina is the governor's race, and it's been fascinating to watch these governor's numbers come in out of this governor's race in North Carolina. Right now, again, with 84% of the vote up, it is too early to call in North Carolina, but you see these guys deadlocked 49-49. So if you're looking for sort of advice as to how North Carolina is going to go in the presidential, that Senate race may make you think that Donald Trump is going to pull it out. This governor's race gives us no information because this is as close as they come.
Yeah, historically you have to win Ohio if you're a Republican. It's a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. Winning Ohio does put him at the edge now, possibly winning the election. However, I do think we're going to see a pattern which is traditional. The Republican, if you look at the country, it's basically divided 50-50. Winning Ohio, then losing losing Pennsylvania makes sense tonight. We'll see if it does end up making sense.
One thing I will say about this Ohio call is that this is something that the Clinton campaign was prepared for. So when they were setting out their map that said, okay, we have all these more paths than the Trump campaign, it included losing Ohio and losing Iowa. So I think from that perspective, this, this news should be tempered just a little bit. I think the question is still their path. Don't forget, we haven't even started talking about Colorado, and there were some late questions in this race about Colorado and what the movements there were going to be. Their path is Virginia, Colorado, and it's through the South.
All right. Speaking of Colorado, let's do some of these Senate races, because the first one on our list, we've been trying to fall back and catch up with these Senate races this evening, is Michael Bennet returning from Colorado. There will be
Democratic incumbent there.
Inevitable talk about Michael Bennet joining leadership, I think, in the years to come. A very popular figure. And more about Colorado as a state after this. The leader of the Democrats predicted, people guess, it's going to be led by Chuck Schumer of New York, who had an easy time returning to the Senate. We're just going to go through these. Jerry Moran in Kansas. John Hoeven, North Dakota. Getting these as you're seeing them. John Thune going back to the Senate from South Dakota. He had an interesting history with Donald Trump during this campaign. John Boozman, Arkansas. Georgia, it's going to be Johnny Isakson. In Iowa, the longtime KG Republican veteran Chuck Grassley going back. And Mike Lee, the popular Republican, is going back from Utah. Here's the Senate again. Democrats with one net gain, but this is early.
Yeah, but the Senate races that are outstanding right now are a bunch of fascinating ones. In Missouri, I believe our characterization in Missouri with Roy Blunt trying to return to the Senate, the Republican, against a Democratic challenger named Jason Kander, I believe our characterization there is that it's still too early to call.
That was too early, yeah.
In Missouri, we do have a presidential call that Missouri has gone to Donald Trump at the presidential level, but this Senate race right now is still too early to call. Also, in terms of too close to call Senate races, big names. Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania against Katie McGinty, the Democrat. That's too close to call. In New Hampshire, the Kelly Ayotte race against the Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan. That is too close to call. And in Nevada, we've got Joe Hack, the Republican, up against Catherine Cortez Masto, who's the Democrat trying to take Harry Reid's seat there.
We have
too close.
We have a major projection. In the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, the projected winner is Hillary Clinton. Casey Hunt.
Campaign breathing a sigh of relief there. Sure, sigh of relief.
168 to 122.
I had this horse talking to me about, and forgive me for using a House race as an example here, but Barbara Comstock, she's a representative from Northern Virginia, Fairfax area. I'm told her internal polling had her tied. And at the end of the day, she won, or she looks like she's on track to win by
Bob paid his race card. Hillary played the woman card. Trump played. We played out. The Americans played their Trump card.
And even if Hillary Clinton comes out on top here, it's very clear there was something going on. I think that's a pretty sharp example in an area that should have gone on. I was just checking that race you're talking about. It's Virginia Tech. Comstock seen as race. Yes. She is the projected winner in that race right now. It looks like the margin is 8 points in her favor. Wynn Bennett was the Democrat there. Everybody thought that was going to be a squeaker. It's not.
Well, the Washington Post endorsed Stock. I think you bear.
Yeah, but it seems obvious from what's happening nationwide. The newspaper endorsements are not.
Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist. He doesn't speak for the great.
Yeah, but look at all the newspapers that endorse Donald Trump, right?
In terms of these bellwether races, we're still results on Florida. Is obviously going to be huge. One of the Republican incumbents in the House who was thought to be in danger this year of Donald Trump, who definitely distanced himself from Donald Trump, was Carlos Curbelo, the Republican Cuban representative in Florida District. Curbelo has also won his seat tonight. He will also be returning to Congress. And so we're looking for these signs in terms of these too close to call races. And we're seeing a mix.
My two-word nomination for what went wrong with as to actually is yard signs. No one counted the yard signs. And I think if you see those matching and mustaches, that's a pollster, if you see them out in public. Steve Kornacki with the route to 270, which really becomes the story. There are two specific routes, two specific campaigns at this hour.
Well, the question everybody's asking, I think, seeing the results come in, can Donald Trump win the presidency tonight? Let me take you through what it would take. We said a narrow path coming into tonight. Some things are going his way. We just showed you Ohio. Now, Hillary Clinton was just called the winner in Virginia. We can add that to her column. By the way, what you're seeing here, some of these states that are lighter colors, they haven't actually been called yet. For the purposes of this exercise, we're going to expect Trump to win in Idaho. We're going to expect Clinton to win California, Oregon, Washington. Keeping that in mind, what at this point would it take for Donald Trump to get to 270? Count up with me here. Start in New Hampshire. We got a too close to call race there. Let's say Donald Trump wins New Hampshire. Take a look in Maine. Now, you got the statewide, you got the first congressional district. The first congressional district's Portland, kind of Democratic. Let's say Donald Trump wins a district in Maine. In Maine, you get an electoral vote for a district. This is very rural. He's got a shot there. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Let's say Hillary Clinton holds Pennsylvania. Do we have something here? Red. Excuse me. Should be red. Let's say Hillary Clinton. See, I'm doing this. Let's say Hillary Clinton gets Pennsylvania. Let's say Trump gets North Carolina. We see him leading down there right now. Let's say Trump holds on in Georgia. Let's say Trump gets Florida, where he's leading right now. Look where he's starting to get. Say Hillary Clinton holds the upper Midwest. Say she gets Wisconsin. Say she gets Minnesota. Trump in Iowa. Let's say he gets Iowa. We'll give her right now Michigan. I know that's a very close state. Give that to her. Let's say Donald Trump gets the one district in Nebraska. Let's give Hillary Clinton Colorado. That's been looking Democratic. Let's say Trump gets Arizona. And look where he is. 268. And at that point, if he were to get Nevada, he'd be over 270. If he were to lose Nevada, because there were some bad early signs for him there, if he could win Michigan, 284. And winning Michigan at 284, he could even absorb a loss. Like if he were to somehow still over 270 at that point. So this is the time we can say it's very theoretical at this point. Things way he needs some of these states to actually be called for him, but there are paths to 270 that are opening up for Donald as we speak.
John Ralston.
Oh yeah, I know. Our buddy John Ralston, who's the dean of the Nevada political.
He said it was.
Well, he said it was based on the early vote. He said if you compare the early vote now,
He was definitive. He was definitive. He was definitive.
I mean, what we've got right now. I mean, obviously, North Carolina continues to be fascinating. Florida continues to be fascinating, but we still don't have calls in Georgia, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. We still don't have a call in Maine. There's a lot of these states that we thought for sure we would at least know by now, and we don't. Right now, that Michigan number that Steve Kornacki was talking about, that's so important. We've got less than a third of the vote in Michigan thus far. And that race considered too close to call. Donald Trump leading there, but less than a third of the vote in.
Lawrence O'Donnell, I have a question for James Carville. Does he agree Michigan ought to be renamed Michigan, Michigan, Michigan?
How did you know what we were talking about? We just here on Michigan, and I think we might have an agreement on the table about just how important Michigan is. James Carville.
Look, if the Democrats lose Michigan, looking at Steve's map, I think this puppy's over. I mean, you stand by, because if Michigan is going to be really critical. I mean, we held Virginia, but we were supposed to hold Virginia. I mean, that was just not necessary. I hope Chris is right about North Carolina. Less than encouraging. Florida looks less than encouraging. I mean, it's going to come down to Michigan.
Steve, Michigan. Michigan's going to decide who the President of the United States is tonight.
Simple as that. Send the map. Let's go back to where we began tonight, Florida. What do you see? Where do you think we are in Florida right now?
It's very ominous for Hillary Clinton. I don't think she's going to be able to make ground in Florida. It doesn't seem to me that there's enough outstanding vote share for her to be able to come back. But I think what we've seen is a surge of rural Republican red vote, and you see that early call in Ohio. Though the Clinton campaign was expecting it, that portends ominously for Michigan. Culturally, there's an alignment of these voters, and you're seeing them perform, I think, at a consistent level across all of these states, which is vastly exceeding expectations. And it's something that Nicole was saying earlier. You know, Donald Trump doesn't have a traditional ground game. And this is an organic surge of support that just wasn't seen, wasn't anticipated across the board in the predictive analysis and the models and the polling.
James, you went on the phone to Florida. You're writing off Florida at this point for
I think it's very difficult. I would be honest, they're doing good to kind of spin it. It's closed. Looking at the map and looking what's out, I just don't see that many votes in Broward. Now, I think they'll get close to 950,000 people voting. You got to blow way past the margins there, but you know he's still getting a third. I mean, for every 100,000, he gets your margins only. You win 66, he wins 33. I mean, the margin's only 30. It seemed to me to be very difficult. I would love to be wrong. I would love to even crow later tonight and say that she did carry Florida. I'm with Steve. The quickness of the Ohio call was disturbing. Not so much that we lost Ohio. That was always a real possibility, but that it came so quick.
The first brink you felt yourself on tonight was Virginia. That was the first one where you said, if Hillary Clinton doesn't win Virginia, it's lost. Now we've moved to Michigan. Michigan's the next stop on the must win.
What we thought going into the night, it was that he had to do this, he had to do that. It is now, the Democrats have to, they don't have the margin, the path here is getting to be very narrow. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying as the night goes on, the path narrows. And it's narrowed on Steve's map. It's pretty clear that Michigan is absolutely critical.
Steve, who do you see with the favored map at this point?
I think you have to, well, look, I think it's a 50-50 proposition, other than to say this, that Donald Trump had to drop a bunch of these states tonight, had to win. In every state that he's had to win, he's dropped, right? He's dropped it into his column tonight. Right. So he had a tight, narrow path. You know, he had to pull it inside straight. He's on his way to pulling it. Now, so we'll see in Michigan, but you look at these numbers in Michigan, and you look at the cultural similarities, you know, between Michigan and Ohio. You know, I think at this hour, you certainly can't say that, you know, she has an easy ride in the state of Michigan.
Ryan, tonight, it's Michigan, Michigan, Michigan at this table.
Lawrence and our specialists, our insiders, thank you. We have another projection. Just as we were going to sneak away to a break, we have another projection, and that is that in the state of Colorado, when all the votes are counted, Hillary Clinton will pick up 9 electoral votes there. As we look at the race to 270, here's the
168, 131.
168 to 131. Let's see what this looks like in blue and red. It certainly starts a vertical for the Democrats out west. They have a known vertical in California along the Pacific Ocean. But Chris Matthews, listening to those, our colleagues in the other studio, interesting.
Look, there's no other word for it. This is a surprise. And that, you know, I've been looking at these maps going back to whenever they started making them, and it's beginning to look like a familiar map. It's beginning to look like a map we've gotten used to. And Colorado is more liberal than most of the West, and New Mexico is more Hispanic. And we're going to see that logic continue. I think the patterns that we're looking at, how Northern Virginia, though, is holding strong for Hillary Clinton. And not as strong as they thought, but it's going to be there. The suburbs of Philadelphia have left to be heard. I think Pennsylvania is strongly going to go for Hillary Clinton. And the fascinating thing is that Michigan, which was picked up on the radar screen of the Trump people about 2 weeks ago, for people that don't seem to have all the mechanisms and apparatus of politics, they had good ears.
And an airplane.
Yeah, and they picked up when I said, you know, we better get out there and spend some time out there as an option to Pennsylvania, because they taught Pennsylvania for months, and they said, well, wait a minute. We can't do that. So now we're going to go up this other route.
Wow.
I mean, it's almost like the Civil War. You know, Lee, General Lee, looking for the place to go up.
I really didn't have no tackles. My defense just kept them off the field. They
and we're going to take the next president to be a unifier, whoever it is. But I think that the fact that Utah, Nicole mentioned that Evan McMullen could screw the whole thing up by 2 or 3 in the morning with this Zion vote.
Clemson, Ohio State, 6-3 hookups did it.
And appealing to what we used to call a favorite son sort of election out there. could screw the thing up, because we do like to believe in this rickety system of ours actually working and it actually producing a president with 270 electoral votes. We haven't had this problem since back when those untied electors were elected back in the 60s, where we actually said, what are they going to do? I do think this is, punditry only goes so far, and it's based on history. Gene?
Yeah.
It's based